Welcome to Catch 88, the Emmanuel Sanders Show. I'm Emmanuel Sanders, and today I have my special guest. I call him Willie Sweet Johnson. Thanks for coming on my show. He's a sweet fullback, man. He can do it all. He can catch, he can block. Where did you get the name Sweet Fullback?
Well, like you said, it just come from, the teammates, Coach Tomlin, and, it just kind of one of those names that stuck with me, for this past couple years. So I just try to go out and give them a reason to call me Sweet Fullback.
Yeah. You grew up in Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio. Born and raised.
Ohio? So that means you grew up a Cleveland Browns fan or a Cincinnati Bengals
You would
fan?
think Cincinnati Bengals or Browns, but actually they were never any good when I was growing up.
So you went to West Virginia. Coming out of high school, did you have any other offers besides West Virginia?
I had a lot of offers actually, but not many people know this, but I committed to Cincinnati as a safety.
Wow.
Yeah, safety linebacker type. But they had a coaching change, and the coach ended up going to Michigan State. And at the time, all the schools wanted me to play defense. They saw me as a linebacker, but I was only about 198 pounds in high school, so I didn't see myself gaining weight. Yeah. And so West Virginia and Coach Rod was the only school to let me play receiver on offense. So that's why I ended up committing there.
So let me get this right. You committed to Cincinnati as a linebacker, and you went to West Virginia as a wide receiver. Now you playing fullback in the National Football League for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I see why they call you sweet, man. You are pretty sweet, man.
Now, the story behind that is I had a roommate who played defensive end at West Virginia, and he came in about 205, so, he needed to gain weight. So we just took advantage of the training tables and the muscle milk. I never had any supplements. I never taken any. Yeah. And that's what started it. From there, from my sophomore year all the way to my senior year, I was just gaining weight slowly but surely.
No doubt about it. What do you see? What's the main thing that you see for us to turn this thing around?
I wouldn't say it's one specific thing. I just think that everyone needs to come together and execute. And, once we do that, I think all the plays and big plays and wins will start stacking and everything will come into play.
This is a good time to go to break. Before we do, I want to show you guys this week pick of the week. This pick is from my rookie year at training camp. A lady actually walked up to me and said that she wanted me to autograph her arm. I didn't know why at the time. But I was just excited to autograph her arm. She actually came back the next day and had it tattooed on her arm. And this is one of the main reasons why I'm in love with Steeler Nation, because they're such diehard fans, and they're the best in the world, I can honestly say. We'll be back after the break.
Welcome back to Catch 88. I'm Rich Walsh. That was a good interview with Will Johnson. The Steelers have a big game this weekend, looking for their first win, and this will be a good opponent to maybe get that next step, that first win. They got a pretty good defense, too.
Yeah, they do have a really good defense. Brian Urlacher isn't there anymore, but, Lance Briggs, he's making a lot of plays, and they got a great secondary, ball hawking secondary that, we got to protect the football. We got a tough matchup. They're 2-0, we're 0-2. But I'm confident in my teammates. I'm confident in this team that, we're going to get the ball rolling and we're going to get on the right note.
The one thing that I look at with these two losses, there was a couple key plays in both losses where this could be a totally different outcome.
Story of football. This game is a game of inches. You can go back to the Tennessee game and the red zone fumble, or even, my deep ball that I should have caught, that's still in the back of my head that I want to make up for. And also you can go to the Cincinnati game, in which the two fumbles in the red zone, one fumble in the red zone. Then we had a key play on a tripping call, of Antonio Brown's 40-yard catch that we were in field goal range. So, but at the end of the day, that's not an excuse. We still have to be a team that overcomes those obstacles. And I honestly, I'm an optimistic guy, and I think that all the stuff that we're going through right now is going to make us stronger for the long haul.
I guess it's, the most important thing is getting that first win.
No doubt about it.
Ready for some Sanders answers?
Yeah.
All right, Emmanuel, after a disappointing loss to the Bengals, the Steelers are still looking for their first win. Many fans are in a panic right now, but what's the attitude in the locker room?
We're definitely not panicking. There's no need to panic. Yeah, we're 0-2. We still got 14 games left on the schedule. We still have an opportunity to turn this thing around and still have a really good record. Some teams are licking themselves right now because they're 2-0, but we're still working. We have our feet on the ground, and we have a great attitude of, let's stop digging the hole and start, piling dirt on top of it and get ourselves up out of it.
All right, on Sunday, Chicago will defend their unbeaten record on the road for the first time this season, and Heinz Field is a pretty hostile environment for any visiting team. What are the two biggest threats in the Bears' arsenal?
No question about it. The first one is offensively Brandon Marshall. We have to control this guy, but I'm confident in Ike Taylor. Ike Taylor has done an exceptional job the past 2 weeks, especially with A.J. Green. He held him to 54 yards. And, that sounds like a lot, but we're talking about A.J. Green, in which, they try to target him a lot. And defensively, they have guys that's ball hawking. They're known for creating turnovers. Even after a guy catches a long 30-yard pass, they're ball hawking and knocking the ball out, catching interceptions. So, we got to turn the ball. We got to, maintain the ball and not turn it over offensively. And, on defense, we just got to create turnovers and control Brandon Marshall.
One thing I did want to ask you, when you're out and about, wherever you go, to the mall or maybe to a restaurant, do people come up to you and ask you about, what are you going to do this week for their fantasy team?
Yeah, I rarely go out, believe it or not. I'm usually at my house, kind of like Will, watching a movie and just relaxing. But, I got a Twitter, E_Sanders88, and all the time I get, so many questions about fantasy. People want to know, if I'm going to catch a lot of balls this week. And people are always interested if I even know what's going on in the fantasy world, and I never do. It's crazy. The craziest question I ever got was, a guy asked me, do I have a fantasy team? And I pretty much, I didn't answer back, but in my head I was thinking, like, why would I have a fantasy team?
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.